Hey everyone, and welcome to Roast the Post, the story behind the bullets. I'm Jennifer Houle, and every week, Paul and I pull apart a real job posting to figure out what it actually says about the company behind it. Because let's be honest, job postings are rarely just job postings. They're tiny windows into culture, decision making, and sometimes a warning flag for complete chaos. If you're a job seeker, we'll help you read between the lines so you can spot the red flags, the green flags, and the run, don't walk flags. And if you're a job seeker, HR folks, hiring managers, anyone crafting these things will decode why certain posting structures signal clarity or why others spray confusion everywhere. Each episode, one of us brings a job post the other hasn't seen. We break it down section by section. And at the end, we both give it a score and leave you with some insights from our nearly 50 years of combined experience in the world of workplaces. All right, let's roast.
Guess what happened on January 2nd?
What happened on January 2nd?
Ontario's pay transparency laws dropped,
Right.
and you have to, as an employer, now disclose a salary range
Yeah.
when you're posting a job posting as of like January 2nd. And guess what the like little bits and pieces of that whole thing are, and what the asterisks are of that pay transparency legislation that the Ford government was like all about.
Well, doesn't it you have to be like employer with 25 or more employees? Like
Yeah.
there's some caveats there. I also, yeah, looked up what are the consequences of not following that and like what is the process because we're going to see a lot of job postings that aren't following it. But yeah, no, what did you have to say about that?
So the range is $50,000.
$50,000 range.
Yeah. Yeah. So which when I was reading through it and I came across that, I was like, hang on a sec, what's the point? Like, I'm going to be waiting for the first job that posts a range of $0 to $50,000.
Right? Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. Do you know off the top of your head if it's the same range like for the other provinces doing it? I have
No
no idea.
idea.
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I have no idea. It's interesting. I should look into that a little bit more. But the $50,000 maximum range thing, I was like, what's the point? Like, posting a job range of 30 to 80, that doesn't really do much of anything,
Yeah,
and it only applies to jobs where the salary is under 200,000. So if it's
right.
over 200,000 a year, you don't have to do it at all.
I
Um,
didn't know that. I didn't
yeah,
know that at all. Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, not like there are tons of jobs that are going to be posted that are over 200,000. Like at that point, you're looking at executive recruiters and headhunters and
Yeah,
whatnot. So it's like not really a public posting kind of thing, but it's
that's
like
true.
I so badly want to see a job with a posted range of 0 to 50.
I know that's so interesting. And like for an organization that just has their like affairs in order and has salary ranges for all of the different roles and things like that. Like I think it's just not a problem. You already have that information. It's not going to be like 0 to 50,000. It's going to be something a little bit more
Yeah,
realistic. But otherwise, it'll be interesting to see now because job posting and everything, the job search on both ends is going to ramp up now that we're past the holiday break. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there and what, if any, are the consequences. BC has had it for a while, and I've
yeah,
seen tons of job postings that don't have a salary range at all. It drives me wild. Like I cannot stand it. I don't understand why any company would wait to do something until they're forced to do it.
right. Yeah,
Like, just
yeah,
do it.
yeah. Just do it.
Just do
Yeah. Speaking of just doing it, let's get into this episode. It's a designer. I'm excited. Do it.
it. Okay, so here is what I have for you. I found this one before the holiday break for anyone listening. I don't know when this will be aired, but we're recording it just after the holiday break. Sometimes things are recorded at different times and then put out into the universe. So I found this before the holiday break and wanted to save it. And it's still there. It has been reposted about 6 days ago, which is not a surprise. during the holiday break, it's really not a great time to be hiring or to be looking for a job, which, consequently, if and when someone loses their job and gets severance and it's close to the holiday period, it's a good opportunity to try to negotiate a higher severance amount, because it will technically take a little bit longer to land a role. So that's a good tip. Never sign the first thing in front of you for severance paperwork. Always try to negotiate. You have nothing to lose, right? So anyway, designer / intermediate designer. I have two titles because on the job posting, that the title of the job says designer, but then you'll see as we get into the job posting, it says intermediate designer. So the role, we don't know who the role reports to. It's unknown. Company size is about 1,300 globally. The industry is advertising services. So this is an agency. And what they do, they're a global creative agency, unrivaled social media expertise. They work with the world's biggest brands, including Adidas, Samsung, Netflix, Google. And they are, like I mentioned, global, 19 offices worldwide, but this role specifically is hybrid based in Toronto. And the company was founded in 2008. So I'm just going to go through, as per usual, the job posting section by section, and we can stop and take pauses as we feel necessary. The specialties of this company are marketing, advertising, influencer marketing, advocacy programs, production, research and insight, cultural insights, brand building strategies, social media, creative, paid media, distribution, measurement, branded content, editorial strategy, sports marketing, and sports sponsorship. They do a lot. They have a lot of these are specialties, mind you. Okay. Who we are. For over 15 years, our unique understanding of online culture and social behaviors has helped some of the biggest brands cut through the clutter to be seen, heard, and known around the world. We're a growing network that combines small agency vibes with big agency opportunities. A global community of 1,300 experts across 19 international offices. We put knowledge sharing and each other at the heart of everything we do. Let's pause there. Is there anything you're feeling from that?
Sounds like an ad agency, for sure. I mean, the funny thing about, and this is true of most professional services organizations, but particularly advertising agencies, marketing agencies, they're continuously on the hunt for business. So they pay a lot of attention to how they position themselves, and they humble brag in absolutely everything they do, which just part of the reason why I left that industry. But still entertains me. I think that I know who this agency is, to be honest, and I'm not going to say it out loud because we ain't got no lawyers and whatnot. So we're not doing that on the show. But I think I knew who they are. Does this set off any kind of feelings for me at this point? No, not really. It's pretty standard issue stuff for agencies. And even the designer, intermediate designer thing, it might seem weird to some people, but it's actually pretty normal in that industry. Like it's quite common to be like, we're going to go looking for a designer / intermediate designer, or sometimes it'll be like junior / intermediate designer, or sometimes it'll be intermediate / senior designer. And the reason that they do that is to cast a wide net. And there isn't really anything that clearly defines who is junior, intermediate, or senior in creative services. And to be completely honest, nobody really cares about it. What they care about is your talent. If you've got design chops and you're very creative and you kind of demonstrate an ability to do the work at a high level and do it on time, it doesn't really matter. But I personally believe, and this is anecdotal, that a lot of agencies will take this approach and say, we're looking for X / Y as a way to put downward pressure on the salary that they offer. Because they can say, oh, you're a senior designer. Well, that's nice. Okay, we will offer you this. It's less than what you're looking for, but not really feeling senior from this. I think that some of them do that. So yeah. Anyway, continue.
Continue. I don't have thoughts on it really, besides the fact that I like the line, "We're a growing network that combines small agency vibes with big agency opportunities." I like that. I think, like, obviously, eh, based on what they do, it's going to be there are going to be some really good things about this job posting and the way that they're marketing it, right? So about the job, the role, we are looking for an intermediate designer to join our growing creative team. This is a team of brand thinkers with a deep passion for social, because it's where culture and audience insights take off. You will join our Toronto office and be expected to work with a fun and enthusiastic group of talented teammates.
Mm.
We are a creative agency powered by social connections. That means we thrive on what's trending and creating campaigns that get people buzzing. We call it ideas worth talking about, and we're proud to have played a part in some of the most culturally relevant campaigns of the decade for brands like McDonald's, Adidas, Universal Studios, and YouTube. Why you'll love it here. We like to laugh. We live for celeb gossip, and we're great on aux. AUX, auxiliary audio cord. I had to look that up. I think it just means that they like music. They have good taste in music. Music is a vibe there.
And the person who wrote this is our age or older. Nobody uses an aux cable anymore.
I don't know. Our passport program lets you explore and work from one of our 18 other offices worldwide, including Paris, Singapore, Madrid, Dubai, London, and more. You best believe we know how to celebrate our wins and our losses. It's how we learn. From carbon offsets to community kitchens, we're passionate about making a difference. I'm going to pause there, even though we didn't go that far into it. We covered the role, who they are, and why you'll love it here. Anything stand out to you? Anything you want to double click on?
Yeah, that deepens the whole agency thing. It's I don't want to harsh on them too much at this point. But saying we have a passport program, you can work from anywhere. It's great in one sentence, and then in the other sentence saying, well, we care about carbon offsets.
Right?
Yeah, it's a little hypocritical. I don't really dig that. But I do dig the whole idea of the passport program. Go work in an office in another city for X or Y. That's really cool. And that would be a big draw. They obviously have identified who they want to kind of bring in for this. That would be a big draw for someone who's young and kind of starting their career and doesn't have a lot of stuff like tying them to one specific place and loves to travel. Like if I was in my 20s and I was still kind of in this industry, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go work in Paris like 1 month, and then I'm going to go work in like Japan in another month. Yep, sign me up. I would absolutely do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it sounds really exciting. It definitely reads young. I would like to know a little bit more about what that program looks like. Like, what are the guardrails? What are the limitations? How long can somebody stay in a different location? There are tax implications, of course. And so I'd be really curious to see how they have sussed all of that out, because there's a lot behind that. But I mean, it sounds like they've got it figured out. And if you're going to have these global offices, the idea of having people being able to visit them and work from them is amazing. I love that. Community kitchens was something that was interesting to me. What that means, don't know. But I also like that they mentioned, like, they celebrate their wins. I'd like to know how, like, is it bonuses? Like, what does that look like? And they mentioned their losses and the fact that that's how they learned, or how they learn. I love a learning organization. So that's pretty cool. Again, I'd like to see that in practice. What does that mean? What does that look like? But a job posting isn't necessarily the place for that. It's not like a thesis, it's a job posting. So, and then it goes on to, you are a person who thrives in a fast-paced environment, responding quickly and proactively, not interested in just following trends. You want to create them. A self-starter who will take ideas from concept to execution, navigating feedback like a pro. Then it says traditional agency experience is not required. but it's a plus. What matters is your deep understanding of what resonates with social audiences. This role is energetic, innovative, and forward-thinking. Alongside engaging with communities, you'll guide brands by staying ahead of social trends and cultural moments. In return, you'll join a global agency dedicated to generating buzzworthy ideas for some of the world's leading brands. So I'm going to stop there because that was really short, but there's a lot there, and I think you touched on it. It reads very young, right? Like, and I'm not trying to be ageist at all. It's just that there's certain types of language, just like the gender coded language we've discussed in the past, that is going to speak to certain stages of life. And asking people to respond quickly and proactively, self-starter. I mean, very common language. But again, there's a story in each of those bullet points, which we discuss all the time. So yeah, curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it definitely more and more. This is the shape, like the picture of this agency is starting to kind of come into view. What stuck out for me is that they say, you know, you don't have to have worked for an agency before, but it's a plus. That's kind of interesting, and I think that reinforces that this is or at least they're trying to be like an up and coming, free thinking, doing things differently, social marketing type organization, because they're essentially saying with that one sentence, like, we don't fit into the mold of the industry, and we don't want you to either. So, you know, come and like join us, even if you're like someone who worked in finance before. That's particularly interesting to me. Is this industry in particular tends to be one that is very, very cliquey. They like their own a lot. So when you see people who are joining an agency, a lot of the time they've been poached from another agency, or they've come across laterally during an acquisition or something. So it's interesting that these folks are trying to say, like, you don't have to have done that before. Like, you don't have to be part of the club. You can join us and become part of our own club. That's interesting.
Yeah. Um, I think that the traditional agency experience is not required, but it's a plus. Like, I just wonder how that's gauged then, right? Like, what does that rubric look like when you have candidates who do have experience versus those who do not? What are they looking for then? And I think you touched on it a little bit. I think it's really about energy levels. It says right there the role is energetic. So I think that that's what matters a lot. And I also wonder if they're looking for people who maybe just have like their own social media platform and experience with TikTok and Instagram and all of the other social media applications that I don't have. Right? Like, does that count for something? And I think it does. I think in a situation like this, in a role like this, even if you don't have direct agency experience, maybe you just have really good social media experience, whatever that looks like in this day and age. So
Yeah, I interviewed, this is probably about 15 years ago now at this point. I interviewed a woman for an agency job at the agency I worked at. And we had this kind of thing where we for some roles we kind of treated it like an audition. So we would put together the job role and everything that kind of went around it, as if you were auditioning for a part in a show. And for this particular role, that was kind of what it was, because they were essentially going to be the social media presence for a handful of clients. Like, I think we had it sorted out so that it would be 4 or 5 clients bucketed together, and they would be kind of like the social account manager type thing, but they'd also be creating content on behalf of these clients. So they needed to be able to do that. And one woman that I interviewed, it was like, it really blew me away. It was awesome. She put together an entire campaign and filmed spots on her smartphone that would be like posts on different social platforms. And she kind of walked through like the rationale of each. Like, it's the kind of thing that it could have been work, right? Like, it could have been paid work for a client. Like, I could have billed those hours. It was that good. But she went to that kind of extent in the job interview. I was like, wow, this is really good. Like, good for you. But a lot of the time, stuff like that is it's kind of the norm in the advertising industry. Like,
Right.
nobody will say you must put together this thing and give it to us unpaid, because that's kind of icky. But people will still kind of go that extra mile and do that sometimes, and it's interesting to see it because you get a sense of their personality, and you get a sense of how they would work on behalf of clients, and you kind of also get a sense of like, oh yeah, I can sell these billable hours, sort of thing, because that's what it all boils down to with agencies. It's
Huh.
like selling time, really.
Did she get the job?
Yeah, she absolutely did.
So this is an interesting question, totally like steering us off track here. But if somebody does go above and beyond in an interview process, so they're going outside of the process that you've created, and you and I have strong feelings about this, I think we both agree that it is important to have a process and to have like consistency across all
Mhm.
candidates. But if you have a candidate who themselves doesn't follow the process and they produce extra work that you didn't ask for, uh, what are your thoughts on that?
I've
They're
always, yeah, I've always looked at it as like good for you, and I'm paying a lot more attention to you now. Not because they put in the extra effort. The extra effort doesn't really mean a whole lot to me in those scenarios. It does, but not in relation to like, are you the best person for this job, and are you the best person for this organization? It more so makes me pay attention to them a little bit more seriously, because they demonstrate the ability to think about the role through my eyes as the hiring manager. And when people do that, and they kind of demonstrate like, I understand what you need, I take them very, very seriously, even if they've completely ignored what I said and have done kind of their own thing, gone rogue. Like, I'm all for it.
right.
I never want to force someone to do something like that. But if they
Yeah.
do it of their own volition, cool.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think I'm torn between thinking from like situationally, one person maybe isn't gainfully employed at that time. And so they have a lot more time on their hands than someone who is employed full time and maybe has a family and like just navigating a bunch of other stuff. And it wasn't asked for. So it wasn't part of the requirements of the job application process. So I think that's where I struggle a little bit. But then I
Yeah,
don't want that also to be used against people who maybe have more on their plate than others, because then it's like, well,
that's the
is this an
thing.
indication of what you're going to bring to work? Are you going to do like the bare minimum or only what you're asked because that's all the bandwidth you have? So I think it's a really interesting debate.
And there's also kind of an ethical nut here, right? Like, if you want job competitions to be fair and honest, and everybody to have the same
Yes.
shot at it, like, that's a good thing. Structurally, you absolutely want to have a process and a system in place that encourages fairness across candidates. It's good for your organization. It's good for them. It's good for you. But at the same time, you don't want to do, at least I believe, you don't want to do kind of the opposite and penalize people who play outside the lines. Because once you start doing that, then you're essentially saying
Yeah.
you must be a cog in the machine, and you're going to be penalized for creative thinking. And no organization benefits from penalties to creative thinking and creative problem solving. In fact, organizations that kind of take that approach to their job structures and job roles, well, and they should probably be like relegated to the dustbin of history for bankruptcy.
I think you make a really good point. Yeah, absolutely. I have so much more to say on the topic, but I'm going to go back to the job posting before we
Okay.
forget everything that we've learned about it. Okay, so we talked about who you are when you're applying, and this is what you'll do. Responding to client briefs with clear and justified design concepts, speaking clearly about any design decisions and rationale, hacking internet culture through design. So finding the brand spin on the trend. Work proactively on all projects, asking questions when necessary, and making use of the knowledge within the creative team. Working in a fast-paced environment and prioritizing multiple deadlines. Autonomy over a range of design aspects across a diverse range of clients. And performing agency duties such as attending meetings, participating in presentations, and attending client and industry events when needed. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullet points. That's one of the shortest that I have seen, actually. But within those 7 bullet points, there's a lot there.
Is that the entire job posting?
No, that's just the
Oh,
what
okay.
you'll do,
Okay. Okay. Just the one section, what you'll do.
right? It's
Yeah,
just
that,
like the responsibilities, which is usually like,
yeah.
here's the part one, part two, part three of these wild jobs. But this is pretty like they've got it. And again, as an agency, they know what this role is, they know what's required of the role. So it's pretty easy to have an idea of what they're going to be doing.
Yeah. Go to industry events. That's totally normal for this industry. Go to client events, go to fundraisers, all that stuff. It's a little bit unusual to say that a designer will be doing that.
Mm.
Typically, that's business development stuff. So, like your account managers, your account directors, those folks, your AMs and ABs, those folks, they'll be going to all of the industry stuff and doing like the backslapping and here, let me go get you, something from the bar or whatever. Let's talk business after 2 or 3 drinks. Like usually that's a business
Yeah.
development function, and that's what happens at these events a lot. To say that a designer is going to participate in that, interesting. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm very, very curious about the thinking behind that because designers typically aren't developing new business unless they're participating in a pitch. So producing creative for a business pitch or for something like that, or presentation or what have you. I found that part interesting. I'm curious. Not a strike against them, just curious. One thing that did stick out for me in that though is they talk about uh, the designer needing to very clearly and concisely go through and elucidate on design rationale
Yeah.
for something that they prepare. That is not something that I've never expected a junior or an intermediate designer to be able to do that. That's very much a senior level designer type thing because typically when you're in your 20s and you're just starting your career as a designer, you're not good at that. It takes a lot of time and a lot of development of critical thinking skills when it comes to your design practice to get really, really good at that. So that stuck out for me. That makes me wonder if this agency is trying to do a bit of an end run and pull in somebody who is a senior designer with lots of experience and bucket them into kind of a more entry level intermediate role to press down on the salary part a little bit.
Yeah, I think in this, I don't know much about this industry, but what you're saying about attending client events, industry events when needed. I kind of think that this might be kind of like a new direction because
Mhm.
they're content creators, and so they're kind of their own celebrity as well. And so maybe the agency is finding that it's of benefit to them that those content creators are showing up to these events too, so that clients can meet them. Yeah, networking, I don't know. It's social media, so it just grows and grows and grows. And I think any kind of touch point is going to help with that.
Yeah,
So
it
I
could
don't
it could also be that they're coming to these events to create content on behalf of the agency
know.
for use
That's such a
in
good
business
point.
development. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's a
that.
really good point.
As I think about it, that's probably it. Like I can't imagine a reason why you would want a designer trying to develop new business.
No, you're right. They're probably there to create the content. It's like everything is content now, everything. So I feel when I say things, when I try to talk about social media, I feel like such an old lady. Like everything is content. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Um, so requirements for this role. 3 to 5 years of experience in design, specifically expert in Adobe Suite, use of AI tools and prompting, adapting brand guidelines through a social lens in an elevated way, editorial layout skills that can translate to a variety of styles, extensive understanding of typography, great eye for sourcing and retouching photography, ability to create graphics, illustrations, and word marks, highly proficient in Creative Cloud and Google Slides, a proactive can-do attitude, video editing or animation experience, passion for culture, creativity, art, design principles, and social media, good time management when working towards conflicting deadlines, confidence to initiate design ideas and ask questions, obsessed with the internet and can speak only in meme language if needed, natural curiosity and understanding of consumer behaviors and mindset in social. So I saw you make a couple of faces. and really curious on which of these requirements you would like to double click on.
Uh, no, I think I'm just gonna go stand on the lawn a little bit and tell people to get off it and whatnot, because that's what it is. Uh, no, what kind of made me what kind of made me like pause there for a second and have a moment was on one hand you're saying you must be obsessed about the internet. Uh, okay, the internet at this point is it's a bit of like a facet of everybody's daily lives, and
Yeah.
the people who you're obviously looking for this role, they're not obsessed with the internet. They're obsessed with the things they're obsessed with that are delivered by the internet. Like that statement was kind of a backdoor way of saying you must be able to use technology. And it's just weird to me that
Yeah.
that it was phrased that way. Uh, and then the other thing that kind of made my eyebrow twitch a little bit was you must really understand meme culture. Fucking memes. I hate memes. I hate meme culture. I hate everything about it. It makes us stupider.
I mean,
And
I can't even, again, as someone who is not on social media except for LinkedIn and Substack, I couldn't even tell you what like an up-to-date meme is right now. So, but again, this is so clearly not catered towards someone in my age range, right? I'm like the very end of Gen X. And so yeah, I'm just not with it.
you are not missing a damn thing. Meme culture is the end of intellect.
Yeah, yeah,
The rest of those requirements, like, so there's another story being told here, and the list of requirements started off very much like a what you would put down if you were looking for a traditional designer, someone who is kind of a generalist graphic designer. Like they're really good with the Adobe suite of products, they're really good with layouts, they're really good with visual media that's not motion media. But then it got into and AI tools. That's fairly new within the past few years, and
yeah.
interesting because there is still a raging debate, uh, and it's kind of nasty in some quarters in the creative services space, and with people who are uh, creatives, artists, art technologists, or whatever, about the use of AI, because any AI that is used in creative services has been trained on the works of designers without consent. Adobe is included in their models. Like they're not having like a very good time with the reaction to this sort of stuff right now. And I think that I think that Adobe is one of the companies that's been sued about unauthorized use of copyrighted materials. So there's an interesting debate going on, but this agency is saying you must be like an expert at AI. From a functional practical standpoint, yeah, of course you have to. Like it's just the way that it is. But that would turn a lot of people off,
Hmm.
especially people who are more experienced and people who have directly sold their own creative works or freelanced. They would read that and be like, I don't know, I don't dig this. What's to stop this machine from replacing me in 6 months? Why are you
Yeah,
hiring me? Like that a lot of people in creative services, especially in video game design, they kind of think like that about all this. So I probably would have omitted that myself if if I was writing this job post, and even if like my agency was using AI tools, like I wouldn't have put that front and center. Another thing that stuck out for me with this is that they are saying you kind of have to have experience with motion graphics, animations, and whatnot. It is very unusual to have a generalist graphic designer also be a motion graphics designer, and vice versa. Like they're different skill sets,
right.
and they don't necessarily play well really all that much. Like it's tough to find people who are good at both kind of branches, like non-motion and motion. Like it's two separate things. So this really reads like an agency that wants a bit of a unicorn to come in, a unicorn that is like a few years out of like design school, out of OCAD or whatever, and can do everything and do it for a great price, and also use AI, which might replace them one day. Like there's some stuff in here that's making my spidey sense go off a little bit.
Yeah, the AI thing is interesting because it does say it just says use of AI tools and prompting. But it is that question of when you're in a creative type role, like, oh wait, are you hiring me to train AI to replace me? Like that's a legitimate question and legitimate concern. So I totally agree with that. I don't have much to say on this. It seems pretty straightforward. My question is usually around, are the years of experience aligned with the title and kind of the scope of the role? And I think 3 to 5 years, yes, but I totally agree too with what you're saying about having the different like variety of types of experience might be difficult to get within that 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, at 5 years, like intermediate designer for sure.
Yeah.
But intermediate designer in motion graphics or in non-motion graphics or in typographical design. They talked about typographical design in there too, and creation of
Yes.
word marks. And that's I personally I love typographical design. It's like it's one of my things where if I could just spend all day looking at typefaces and fonts and like looking at pairings of them, I'd be the happiest person on the face of the earth. But it's another thing that doesn't fit well amongst everything else that they've asked for. Like a good typography person who's like doing these layouts and picking typography and whatever, like they're typically not someone who's really good at motion graphics. Like it's different training, it's different skill sets.
Yeah. So they're putting a lot of things out there. And maybe it's one of those things where it's like, as the job seeker, you might see these requirements or qualifications and think, oh yeah, I'm like 8 out of 10. I've got this. And it's the same thing with the job posting, right? They're like, well, we're hoping, we're putting this out there, hoping for, like you said, trying to net a unicorn or something like that.
It could also, it could also be a case of they're throwing a wide net to catch like someone who's good at a specific sort of thing. Like some agencies will put job postings out there and ask for absolutely everything, knowing that nobody's going to satisfy absolutely everything, and they're still going to get a ton of applications.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those. I don't know. Like you could easily take, if you're hiring more than one person, you could easily take this and be like, okay, so I threw this out there. One person appears to be really strong with motion graphics, and the other person appears to be really strong with traditional design, layouts, typography. Let's hire them both. Might be a case like that. But if I was writing this job posting, I would be a little bit more transparent about that. I'd be like, we're hiring 3 designers, and these 3 designers are going to work together in like a creative pod of some sort. Like I would kind of tell the story a little bit more, because this just seems a bit random and disjointed.
It's a good observation too, because they have about 20 open job postings worldwide,
Wow.
and some of them are like designer, motion graphic, right? Some of them are more specific to a certain skill set. So this one does seem a little bit vague for that. Interesting. That one is also in a completely different part of the world.
Right.
So that might be why as well.
Right. And that's interesting. Maybe what they're really looking for then is a design generalist who has the right kind of experience to be able to interface with specialist designers, like kind of a bridge designer. Because they're in some agencies, when you're doing your creative operations design, like building out your team and your structure and whatever, there are there are also sometimes what's called production designers or production artists. And what they do is they take the output from specialists and just like play with it a little bit and tweak it and marry it and turn it into different formats, different sizes. And they really exist to combine the output of a couple of specialists into a variety of different usable material or content for clients. So you might have think about like if you're designing a brand for a client, and the part of the brand you're working on is the logo. You might get 3 concepts from a specialist designer who like does branding, and then you as the production designer would take those 3 concepts, turn them around, and cut them into 20 different options with varying like sizes and colors and weights and all of this stuff. So like maybe this job posting is kind of sort of meant to be that a little bit, but they didn't say it. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
There's still there's still a bit more, but that was it specifically like to the role. There isn't very much there. There's really like who you are, which was 3 bullet points, what you'll do, which was like 7, and then the requirements. And the list of the requirements was longer than the other 2 combined. So it's interesting. So now we go into why join, why should you join our team? Some of it is like just in general for this job posting, some of it, the grammar, the way it's worded, I'm not wild about. Like, for example, under the what you'll do, they have responding to, speaking clearly about, instead of what you'll do, respond to client briefs, speak clearly about. So the conjugation of the verb even is weird to me. Like it's, I don't know, it's just interesting. There are a couple little grammatical things that I guess rub me the wrong way. So
they clearly did not run this through their AI tools.
Exactly. So, and another example is, why should you join our team? I don't know. Why is it written like that? That sounds odd to me. It's hard to read, hard to say, but that's just such a small thing. It's just, you know, we're deep diving into things that, so that other people don't have to. And that's one of the things that for me, I just don't like the way that that's written. At this company, we don't just offer a job, we offer a creative career in an agency that moves at the speed of culture. Here's what you'll get. We are the first, largest, and most awarded socially led creative agency in the world, connecting you to 1,300 plus like-minded professionals around the world. An innovative and entrepreneurial work environment that promotes ingenuity and individuality with the best of colleagues and the best of clients. Hybrid work models and flexible hours, plus a work from anywhere policy for short-term stays in other regions. Generous vacation starting at 3 weeks, plus 1 extra week during the summer and over the holidays. Agency summer days, exact policy differs per campus and agency. Modern open co-working spaces with coffee and snack bars located in great city neighborhoods, close to shops and restaurants and easy access to public transport. Dogs allowed, dedicated private wellness room in select offices, regular team social events, holiday parties, seasonal gatherings, weekly happy hours, inspiring speakers, and more. We are obsessed with learning and being better humans. In-house learning and development sessions and annual career and growth conversations, access to an internal network of opportunities across all agencies, focus on developing and recruiting BIMPOC talent, internal EDI groups, programs and initiatives across this company, and opportunities to be involved in employee resource groups. So I'm just going to stop there because that was a whole heck of a lot. Yeah, interested to hear your take. The BIPOC, they've replaced BIPOC in this situation with BIMPOC, Black, Indigenous, Multiracial, and Peoples of Color. So that's what that stood for. I know we talked a lot about the acronyms and everything. So, and then EDI, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion.
Yeah, I was wondering what the M was because I haven't heard BIMPOC before.
I mean, actually, I haven't either. So, and again, just going back to the way some of these things are written, the language, it almost feels as though English is not the first language of the person who has written this, or it's written from, like, maybe their people team is headquartered in a different country. And it just feels like some of the terminology, some of the ways that things are written is not quite like, it's just not quite landing as smoothly to me.
Yeah, that is one of the things that stuck out to me. Like you mentioned, maybe this was written by someone in an HR group in a different country. That last section in particular, you know, with the qualifiers saying in some offices or in select offices only, that tells me that there is a corporate HR group, and that corporate HR group is doing at least some level of employer branding for the entire group of companies. and maybe they're not in Canada. They might be in one of the other offices somewhere else, and like you say, they're putting together some of these materials for everybody to use. Like it's good that they have that team. I actually really like it when group companies have a centralized approach to building structure. And that section also talked about progression opportunities. So it's like we're going to have conversations about development and mentorship and training and everything. That's great. It's great to put that in the job posting as long as you follow through with it. And there actually is a system. It's not just kind of haphazard and here's $50, go like get a library card or something. Like telling the candidate that they're going to be supported as they grow is very positive. And if they're actually doing that, hats off to them. And that also, like, it's actually really smart business. When you have an approach or a strategy like that, and you say, we're going to invest in training and development, and at the same time, we're also going to have a private job board, essentially, they called it a network of opportunities.
Yeah.
In their other agency offices in the world, you're essentially lowering your burden of training and onboarding new talent by training your own internal talents and giving them pathways to move around from A and B. And if you think about, like, it seems very clear to me the kind of person that they're trying to hire here, someone who's young, loves traveling, loves learning, loves kind of mobility and whatnot. If you can say, like, all right, we're going to keep our Paris office fed with creative energy from different parts of the world whenever they need it, or our New York office, or our Toronto office, or whatever else. And you're doing it with your own in-house talent that's been specifically kind of like trained on the way that you do things and brings new energy and ideas to your other offices. That's very smart business.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot I like here. I mean, it sounds very exciting. Everything about this job posting and when they're talking about their agency is very like high energy. It reads as high energy to me, which to me feels very exhausting. But for someone else, I think that's very exciting.
Mm.
You know, there certain, you mentioned it, like the annual career and growth conversations. That's interesting wording to me. Like, I don't know. I should hope that you would be having those conversations. And I would also hope that they're not happening just annually. And I would also hope that it's something beyond conversations. Like, that's weird to me to say, like, as like a selling point, we have annual career conversations and growth conversations. Yeah. Like, well, again, I should hope that you do, and I should hope it goes beyond a conversation. But I'd like to know a little bit more about what that looks like, because they do mention like growth and learning in several bullet points. So, and they're talking a lot about how much they love to learn. So that to me, I'm hopeful. It sounds pretty cool. But I'd like to know what that looks like. And I think like if a company is doing, I don't know, a bare minimum, it feels weird to even bullet point it. But I guess you kind of have to, right? Some companies don't do that. So I don't know. These are opportunities to differentiate yourselves. And I hope that companies are having career conversations, but I mean, I know that they're not. So maybe it does need to be highlighted.
Yeah, the way that I interpreted that one was that it was about mentorship, specifically, and I perhaps am like reading completely into that. Maybe it's not about mentorship. So I've been exposed to environments where their idea of career development and growth is once a year, you, the employee, needs to sit down with your direct manager, supervisor, and talk about like stuff, and be like, what do you want your life to be like in 5 years? Oh, that's nice. Go and write me a professional development plan for you for next year, and maybe I'll rubber stamp it. Maybe I'll give you feedback on it. Maybe I won't. Like, there are organizations who treat this like that, and it's a performative exercise in bullshit, really. So if this is that, not great. But if it is, like, let's have a conversation about mentorship. That would be really interesting, because there are not a lot of places, especially smaller organizations. Not that this is a small organization, like 19 agency offices, like small agency perhaps, but big organization. There are not a lot of organizations that give mentorship and knowledge transfer and experiential transfer. It's kind of due. Like
Yeah.
that's missing from a lot of places, and it's a real shame because an employee, like someone who's kind of starting out their career and like growing their career, they get a lot from those conversations.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think that if that's what this is, then I think naming it explicitly as such would be
Yeah,
like, would go above and beyond.
yeah,
Because to me, naming it as like career growth conversations is just, it's a missed opportunity. If it really is, as it should be in an organization that big,
yeah.
they should have an in-house mentoring program. How cool. It sounds great. It sounds great. It sounds exciting. Like I said, it sounds high energy. And it also sounds like it has the typical startup type things like the dogs, woohoo, and weekly happy hours. Not crazy about that. Show me an happy hour and I'm all over it. But happy hours, just it's implying that there's alcohol involved. I don't know. I don't know if that belongs in the workplace. I know so many people will disagree, but I am, after all, HR. And so I don't want to feed into people's addictions and things like that. Like when companies have, I don't know, I worked for a company that had like a quarterly poker game. And all I could think was like, it's one thing if you want to take that offline and do that with your friends, but it's a whole other thing to like open up the office after hours and like have catering and an open bar and all this stuff. Like it's just feeding into people's potential addictions. And that's really terrifying to me. It doesn't feel very
Yeah,
responsible.
yeah. It's the advertising industry's kind of flirtation with alcohol and good times over the decades is like that is a thing for sure. It is. The industry as a whole is a lot more cut and dry than they used to be. Like even when I was working in advertising, it was a little bit like, well, this is very, geez, the taps are open. How about that? And that was in the early 2010s sort of thing. So
Yeah, finance and I mean lots of industries, lots of like tech startups. Like I worked in one where there was a keg, in the lunchroom, and who's to say that people weren't just going in and having little sippy poos. I don't know what else to say. Drinks throughout the day. So anyway, whatever. I sound like such a square. I'm really not. It's just like we know so much more now than we did before, and people are struggling with so much. And it work to have all these other temptations on top of it when you're really just there to do a job and that's it. It makes it, I don't know, it makes it really complicated. There's more. We're not done yet. So
no,
we were in the why should you join our team? We invest in your health and wellness. So speaking of health and wellness and all of those things, flexible benefits to support your individual lifestyle and life stage with access to a personal wellness spending account you can use for a wide range of wellness expenses, including gym membership fees, pet care, education expenses, and much more. Exclamation point. They're all this posting is riddled with exclamation points. I'm just not putting the emphasis on them, but I probably should have been. Comprehensive mental health support, including access to a virtual mental health therapy clinic, providing you with personalized therapists, guided ICBT programs, and live therapy, access to health clinicians 24/7, and a holistic array of other health and wellness resources to support you and your family. I just read it the way it's written. Like I said, there are a few like weird grammatical things here. I've mentioned that. So that was just a weird, they just didn't review it properly, I think. So that's the health and wellness. There's still more. So I don't know if there's anything there you want to go deeper on.
I mean, I like that I like that they're listing these things because what I find with a lot of organizations, when they're putting together their employer branding kind of strategy and figuring out how to communicate the benefits of working for the organization beyond the paycheck and kind of supplementary to the mission, the purpose. A lot of organizations skip this stuff because they think it won't be meaningful. But some of the most meaningful supplementary things you can attach to a job posting are things like this that don't really cost a whole lot, right? Like even saying things like, you know, you've got access to virtual mental health care. I hope it's not just chat GPT. But even if it's just like we're going to pay for a subscription to TELUS Health or one of the other providers that do this sort of thing, like cool, great, like put that in there. Some people will just skip over. Like I probably would skip over something like that and think it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. But for the person who does really find that to be a useful benefit, they're going to gravitate to this a whole lot more because of that. And the pets thing, like same sort of thing. You know, like I worked with a chap who had an adorable I forget what the breed is. It's an Asian breed, Shino something or other. Super cute, super full of attitude. Like he didn't want to leave his dog at home in his condo all day because the dog would go mental and probably destroy all his stuff. So he was like, "Can I bring the dog to the office?" And nobody had ever asked that before, and nobody kind of knew the answer. So we had to go through our lease and be like, "Can we have pets in the office? Are we liable for like, you know, stains and like fur and whatever? Like, what are our responsibilities as the lessee?" Sort of thing. And eventually someone in leadership just said, "Fuck it, let them bring the dog to the office." And I tell you, that one act of saying, yes, you can bring your dog to the office, it meant so much to him. And it wasn't clear that it would before that conversation happened. And this dog just became beloved by the entire office. Everybody loved the dog. Like there's a picture of me in, I think, 2022, like laying on the carpeted floor in the office with this dog with like my mask on because it's COVID, just like having a little scritchy. Like, I'm going to take 5 minutes and lay on the floor with this dog and scratch its neck, and it's
therapeutic.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, right? Like if you're trying to create this environment where, you know, people are supported and, you know, they're healthy, and you're thinking about like the whole being, whole body wellness, like health, mental, emotional, whatever. Having pets in the office, as long as they're not too distracting, makes a big difference. Makes a really big difference.
I agree. It's again, I feel like I'm always saying yes, but because I work in a dog friendly office, a tech company, and I myself would bring one of my dogs in, and we had an employee who was terrified of dogs.
Yep.
She was originally from a different country,
Yep.
where and even like I have a Mexican background. My mom is like, dogs are vermin. Why would you get a dog? Like she was just completely stunned that I got a dog when I did. But yeah, so this one person was terrified of dogs. For her, it made going to work like a traumatic experience. And so I don't know, maybe there's some like better HR pros out there who have navigated this situation before, because on the one hand, I am a dog owner. I love dogs. I love having dogs in the office, but I can also feel for this person who struggled every single day to come into an office where there were just dogs roaming around. And like we tried to implement rules, like keep them close to your desk, and they're not just like free range all over the office. But dogs are going to dog and they're going to go wander around and see people. So I think that's a difficult one too, right? That might be a drawing point for someone.
Yeah. And there's allergies too, right? Like
there are
some
allergies.
people are allergic to dogs.
Absolutely. I have one hypoallergenic dog and one that's not. And that was the only one that I would bring to the office for exactly that reason. But yeah, it's difficult to know. In a hybrid situation, I think there's an easy solution. It's kind of like, here are the days where dogs will be in the office. But it doesn't help with the allergies, but it helps with anybody who has a fear of dogs. You know, stay home when the dogs are there. I don't know, but I can see it being a selling point, and then I can see it being a deterrent for some people. I think that category is like a much smaller category, but it's just like things to think about, right? Like you do have to be cognizant of the fact that, especially if you're going to be in like a diverse environment, there's going to be different lived experiences and different cultural backgrounds. So,
Yeah, and on that kind of thought, like maybe that's another good reason to kind of pick a position, if you will, and say, we're going to be a dog friendly office and we're really going to communicate it heavily and whatnot. So everybody who comes into a role there, they know there are going to be dogs there, and like if it's not for you, then at least upfront before you accept an offer, before you invest time in interviewing with this company and saying, like, yeah, I'd love to work here, but dogs, I can't do dogs. It would be really interesting if somebody was like, I would love to work here. I can't do dogs. Can you make an accommodation for me? That would get really messy.
I know, exactly. So and again, this goes back to like what I firmly believe is that we're functioning in like frameworks and workplace processes built on a workplace that doesn't exist anymore, right? Like these are newer type issues that we're trying to navigate, and you can't just apply like old ways of thinking to new ways of working. It just doesn't fly. So yeah, you mentioned this too. I think listing what benefits you have, a lot of people will say like, we've got great benefits. Well, what are they? I would love to know what they are a little bit more detailed, the way that this one has detailed it. I think that's great. It's important to people. Again, we're in a different work like vibe right now. It's completely different, and so things like this are very important. Is it family coverage? Like are the premiums paid for by the company? Is it a split? Like that can be a differentiator for someone too. So yeah. And then quick note, ICBT is inference-based cognitive behavioral therapy, just so that
Okay.
knows.
I didn't know that one either.
And then there's more.
Of course, there's more. I've been saying so many fucking words. There's got to be more.
There's got to be more. Again, when you go to the meat of the role itself, it's so short. This is how you know it's like all about marketing and promotion, because the rest of it is all just like, here's why we're so wonderful. Not that there's anything wrong with it. We asked for more of that in other episodes. So join us. At this company, we celebrate diverse perspectives and experiences. We welcome unique voices and talents, especially those not traditionally embraced by advertising. Discover more about our culture and work. I think there was a link here that I removed. Creating meaningful work means embracing different perspectives. We are an equal opportunity employer and do not discriminate based on age, color, ability, national origin, race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation. Not only are these provisions protected by provincial and federal law, embracing difference is what makes this company what it is, and we wouldn't have it any other way. We pride ourselves on our inclusive and accessible workplace. If you need any accommodations during the interview process to make it work for you, let us know. Let's do cool stuff together. Apply now. And it goes on about another part of the entrepreneurial network that they're part of. It's a unique partnership of forward-thinking creative agencies. As a network, we unabashedly believe anything is possible. Why? Because possibility is what powers the big dreams and limitless drive of an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurial agencies are what we're made of, a whole network of them. Together with blank agencies, we use our collective strengths to form bespoke, innovative, and integrated teams that deliver a positive impact on your business. That means faster time to market, less bureaucracy to navigate, and no end to the creative magic making of our clients. And there, that's it.
Okay. That was it was interesting. So they said we don't discriminate. It's provincial and federal law, but they also kind of took it one step further and said, because it's the right thing to do and it makes for better business. Yeah. Good for them for staking out that position. That it's quite smart. And I'm going to be a cynical bugger here for a second, but it's very smart for them to do that, because it's going to create a friction point or a barrier to dissuade people who don't share those kind of values, right? Like there are some people who would read that particular part and be like, oh, DEI, oh my God, I'm out. And to be honest, it sounds like they don't want people who kind of have that particular mindset working in their agency anyway. So kind of positioning this up there, up front, out there to be like, yeah, this is what we're all about. If you don't like it, they didn't say this, I'm saying it. If you don't like it, fuck off. That's smart. That's smart because there is, because advertising is so creative compared to a lot of industries, morale and cultural and value clash problems have an outsized effect on the productivity of the business. If you have teams that don't work really well together in this industry, you're done. Like in other industries, you gotta work around it, right? Like, you go sit in that desk over there, you go sit in that desk over there, like we're good. We'll put you in your corners and just don't like yell at each other in the office. Like we'll make it work. But in advertising, you're toast because you're selling time, and the output of that time has to be really, really creative stuff that someone will pay for. If they don't want to pay for it, your clients, you're
Yeah.
gonna get fired, right? So you have to have harmony in the office. So they're kind of thinking about that and putting that into the job posting, which I like. It's smart. It also kind of aligns with my values too. So it's like, yeah, I kind of dig this. But there are other people who it's not going to align with their values, and that's fine. At least they're being upfront and clear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it too. I think it goes a little bit beyond the whole equal opportunity and we will accommodate you during the interview process statement. There's a little bit more to it, and putting it out there like that, I think is great. Um, that's it. Like I said, there is no salary listed. And we talked about this, the two of us, about how this is a job in Ontario, and as of January 1st, January 2nd, 2026, pay transparency and job posting is required in the province of Ontario for employers with 25 or more employees. And so I checked the posting again because it's still live and it's not there. So that's really interesting to me, but because there are fines, like if
Yeah.
you're not compliant with this, job seekers can file a complaint to the Ministry of Labor, and that would trigger a formal investigation. Not only can corporations be fined, I think it's like 100K for their first conviction. It increases, so it goes up every time you continue to not comply. So yeah, not just the organization, individuals like directors within the organization can also be held liable for these violations. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal to not have salaries posted. Sure, there's probably going to be a grace period, but again, it's just one of those things where in this day and age, why wouldn't you post it? The only reason you wouldn't post a salary range in a job posting is for like sketchy, nefarious reasons, and I don't like it. So I'm not.
Lowball.
Yeah. No good. There's no good reason why at this
Yep.
point. So I don't like it.
It's January 5th today, and you
Yeah.
mentioned that it's been reposted. Was this on LinkedIn? Did you find the job posting on LinkedIn? Yeah, okay. So I am guessing that the person that's responsible for this just like hit the repost button and
This
didn't
is
even look
it,
at
right?
it again.
And it might even be one more clue that the person who wrote it or posted it isn't in maybe this country or really not in this province, because they're breaking the rules here by not doing that. So it's interesting. But that being
Yeah.
said, I'm curious as to what you think that the salary could or should be for this role.
Yeah. You said it was hybrid and it was in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would probably place the value of this job, uh 0 to 5 years experience. I'd probably put this at 60 to 80. That would be my guess. Um, yeah, that would be my guess. And probably 5, 6 years ago, it would have been less than that. Because
Wow.
this type of job, there are a ton of people in the labor market who could do this job. Like there's very little. there's very little supply side pressure on this job. Like there's tons of designers out there. Like just they're all over the place. Not all of them are good,
Yeah,
but
that's
there's tons of them. And like
yeah.
unfortunately, supply and demand is a big driver of wages, of salary, right? So when you have like more designers than can possibly be employed, that's going to depress wages, which sucks. It's capitalism,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. Uh, so I'd say 60 to 80 would be what I'd be putting on this job.
I think I was thinking more like 70 to 90, and I was just basing it on kind of folks I know and companies I've worked at before who've had similar type in-house roles. But we will never know because it's not
Isn't
posted. But
post the range?
I'm gonna stalk this posting and see if they do update at any point, and I'll follow up with you to see uh, whether or not we were on the mark. One thing to note too is that like my overall read on this role is that it sounds like we said really exciting. It sounds very much like written to I don't know, entice younger crowd, younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
And the company, it sounds amazing. Like they say a lot of the right things. They sound super like with it and understand what it is that the younger generation is looking for and needs. However, I did look on the Glassdoor, and the Glassdoor review, the overall rating, average rating is 3.2. And I pulled a quote that was my favorite. And it's not fair of me to do this because I cherry picked one negative quote from Glassdoor, but it just goes to show like what you're reading in a job posting and all the things that they say might not actually be the case, right? That might not be the reality of working in that organization. And so the quote was, "Toilets are not fit for the amount of time you will spend crying in them." Bravo. Bravo to whoever wrote that. Haven't we all been there before?
So that
You
person works in marketing, in other words.
know? Exactly, exactly.
No,
Um,
it's we didn't really talk about this, but this industry is brutal.
yeah.
Even for agencies that are very supportive and have strong leadership teams and have like some respect for boundaries, the very nature of the work that they do and the fact that it's professional services at the end of the day means that you are really being driven by the expectation of your clients. And clients are not always nice. Clients are sometimes nice in professional services, creative services. The way a lot of organizations that hire agencies look at agencies is like, I'm hiring you because you have to, and I hate you. I hate your billing models. I hate everything about you. I don't like you, but I need you. So let's work. You can imagine what that dynamic
Yeah.
creates, right? And when you have an account manager who's getting kind of pooped on by their client, and they're like, that's all bottled up, and they don't have a great outlet to deal with that. They go and poop on other people who work with them, and then the other people poop on other people, and there's just like before you know it, there's just shit flying around the agency, and you're like,
Kick
oh
the
my god,
dog
this is so
syndrome.
yeah, this is so
Yeah.
ridiculous. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in agencies, like in advertising agencies, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, yeah, that person, even though it's one comment, it's pretty on point. You'll
Right.
you'll
And it
spend
could
a
be the
lot of time
nature.
being stressed the fuck out.
Yeah. It could be the nature of the role itself versus like, inherently some roles are just going to be challenging. Some industries are just going to be really, really difficult. So it could be more as a result of that. There was stuff about management, the typical Glassdoor reviews that you see about management needing to get their shit together. Like that's not special to this organization. But I don't know if it were in my field, if I were a heck of a lot younger than I am now, I think that this would seem like a really exciting place to learn, to just kind of create a foundation of learning and experience under my belt. So yeah. Do you
Yeah,
want to rate this job posting?
I'd give this one I'd give this one like a 7. It was pretty good. It
Yeah.
was pretty good, despite my criticisms of it. It was pretty good. The one thing that I would kind of do differently if I was the person writing this, if I was the job seeker, I would have maybe like 15% less fluffy wordy BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're right that, like, it's marketing. We need to market our organization, and they did do a lot of that, which for some of the ones we've looked at, huge missed opportunity. But it's a little much, and some of it is not actually meaningful. It's just, kind of like, doesn't this sound cool? Wow, we're
I
cool.
know. I know. I agree. I think I would say 7 out of 10 as well. I
Okay.
just find that the actual like meat of what the role is, it's quite short, and the rest is a whole lot of, like you said, a lot of fluff, a lot of like, look how cool we are, which is totally fine. Again, I think that's why it reads just like they're trying to attract a certain type of generation, a certain type of person. But there was a lot that I liked about it too. So not bad for sure.
The job posting did also do a very, very good job at kind of glossing over one of the fundamental things about power dynamics in an agency when you're a designer. When you are a designer working in an agency,
Mhm.
you do not have power, and you do not have authority, and you do not have, terrible pun, you do not have agency. Um, so that person who you found the comment where it was like toilets insufficient for the amount of time spent crying in them, that person could have been the outgoing designer that this one was replacing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that this job would not be without its drama. I think there would be a lot
Yep.
going on. I think it would be very interesting. I think that you would spend a lot of your life doing the work. But yeah, foundational learning for sure. I think everyone needs an experience like that at some point in their career where
Yeah.
you wake up and realize you just spent like 3 years doing only that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If I was in my 20s and a designer, I'd
Yeah.
apply for this. I
Yeah.
would. Like, it'd be
That's how
fun.
I feel too. I would this like so right up my alley, and just the ability to travel and go to different offices and things like that, I think would just be phenomenal. So I would be willing
Yeah.
to overlook some of the other things just to be able to do that.
Yep. Well, with that, I think we can consider this post roasted. Thanks for joining us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If today's breakdown made job postings just a little easier to understand, or at least a little less painful, mash that old subscribe button. We're on YouTube and all the major podcast apps, so follow us wherever you like to listen. And if you spot a posting that feels off, confusing, oddly ambitious, or just plain entertaining, send it our way. We love digging into real examples from real people. Link in the show notes for more. We'll see you on the other side of the mulberry bush with another post to roast next week.